Welcome back to the channel Tarot Yogi. I'm Vinit, I read Tarot intuitively, and today we're doing a really special timeless pickacard reading on how are you being viewed right now. And this is really special because this is a collaboration between Mystic Rose and me. So please do go check out the extended reading on how are you being viewed right now on Mystic Rose's channel. I'll try to link her reading down in the description box below, but it is Mystic Rose. So please do go check her out. She's an amazing tarot reader. She's very gentle. She's very nurturing and very loving. And I just love her gentle energy. I just love how she does her readings, especially her love readings. It really makes me hopeful for love. So please do go check out Mystic Rose on her channel. And it is such an honor, and I'm so grateful for being able to do this collab. So thank you so much for collaborating with me, Mystic Rose. And having said that, we have 3 piles to choose from. Pile number 1, we have the Siren. Pile number 2, we have the Masterpiece. And pile number 3, we have the Ringleader. So take a minute, see what pile has been called to you intuitively. The description box below will have the timestamp for your pile. And again, remember, this is a general reading. Take what resonates, leave the rest. And if you like my style of reading, please like this video, share, subscribe, comment. It means a lot. It helps the channel grow. And please do go check out the extended reading on Mystic Rose's channel. Please go check out her other readings. And I will see you guys in your reading. Thank you. Hi, pile number 1. If you chose the Siren card, this is going to be your how are you being viewed right now reading. So we're asking angels, ancestors, spirit guides, ascended masters, star family today. How is my pile 1 being viewed? How is my pile 1 being viewed? We thank you for these clear, concise, and accurate messages, angels, ancestors, spirit guides, ascended masters, star family. We thank you for always guiding us, especially when we need it the most. How is my pile 1 being viewed right now? We thank you for these clear, concise, and accurate messages. We thank you for always guiding us, angels, ancestors, spirit guides, ascended masters, star family. How is my pile 1 being viewed right now? Okay, pile number 1, we have Ace of Cups, 4 of Swords, the Hanged Man, Ace of Wands, 4 of Pentacles, 7 of Wands, the Justice card, 3 of Swords, and 2 of Swords. So I think what is happening here, pile number 1, is you have really been going through it. And I think the fact that you have been going through it is somehow public. So you could have had like a very nasty verbal spat with someone, or you had like a very public breakup or something along those lines. But people are definitely seeing you right now as someone who's gotten out of that, who's sort of gotten out of the lowest point in their life, and you have a renewed sense of self. And it's sort of like your comeback era. You know, we have the Siren card, and it's from the Toxic music video, and Britney was like at the height of her pop stardom at that time. So, you know, this is sort of like your toxic era where you're sort of basically letting go of all the toxic people you've probably had in your life over here. And regardless to say, you know, you are shining here very bright. You know, you're very sparkly. You're very, a lot of y'all could be in the spotlight. A lot of y'all could be in the public eye in some way. You know, you could have a public platform here of some way, you know, shape, form. So people are definitely seeing that right now. You're not afraid of saying no. I think a lot of y'all are empaths, and you know, you've really evolved to come to this point in your life, at this place in your life right now, because you're definitely being viewed as someone who's putting themselves first. You know, you're finally becoming your own priority, and I don't think things have always been this way. And people also see you as someone who's very intuitive. You could be my tarot readers, my astrologers, my yoga teachers, my Reiki healers. But I want you to know that you are very psychic, and somehow people even see that. People see that you're very intuitive. And people, I think pile number 1, what has happened is you have become very aware of the effects you have on other people, and you sort of understand how energy works and how exchange of energy works. So I think you finally come to a place where you're very reserved about who you give yourself to, friends, family, whatever, lovers. You've become very, very selective, so I'm seeing that you're not partying as much right now, and you're sort of keeping to yourself. You're very much in your introverted energy, and let me say that that is great. You're finally not letting people drain you, and you're making sure you don't have any energy leaks, because what I'm also seeing here is you're definitely at a place in your life where you're waking up to a higher calling for yourself, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be spiritual. You're just waking up to that part of yourself that is truly divine, and I think you have finally taken off your rose colored glasses, and you're able to see things the way they are, and that is really, really powerful. So right now you are in the process of completely surrendering and really looking at your own life from like a whole new point of view. So that is very, very evident, and people can see this. People can see this rather drastic change that you've had within yourself, and let me say that that is great. It means you're truly progressing in the way that you need to be progressing. You're going exactly where you need to be. So people can see that you have a renewed sense of enthusiasm, like I said, and that sort of ties into what I was saying earlier. You're sort of waking up to your calling, why you sort of haven't put on this earth, so you're finally following your destined path. And I think that is something that is really, really inspiring you. And this cute girl, she's really holding the salamander close, so I think you're also very, very secretive about your steps. You're not you probably used to post your feelings on Instagram all the time, but you've probably stopped now, is what I'm seeing. You're very, like I said, you're very reserved, and you're not sharing everything with people, which is great. Keep secrecy. It not only makes you more mysterious, but it sort of increases the intrigue. And I get it. Most of y'all don't even want to be bothered. Y'all don't want to be like the most fascinating thing in someone's life, but you sort of are, and I think you have to understand that. You have to understand your own power at times, because and it's very important how to understand how are you being viewed, not because it matters at all. Let me say that it really doesn't fucking matter, but it sort of helps you introspect, and really helps you maneuver better in a social situation, for example. And I think you finally understand that you have a very beautiful light about you, and a lot of people may even say that you're lucky, but I don't think you're very lucky. I think, yes, I think you're lucky, but I think you're blessed. You definitely have your ancestors, your spirit guides, your angels guiding you through some very, very difficult and tumultuous times in your life. I think your world has been flipped upside down way too many times, and despite that all, you know you always seem to come back to this place of renewed sense of self and enthusiasm, and there is always something that is driving you forward, and nothing can truly stop you over here. And justice is something very big in this reading. Also, I'm seeing we have the justice and seven of wands. So like I said, I think you've gone through many situations in your life where things were really turned upside down for you, and you have made it through, and you always will make it through. And I know a lot of y'all are saying, but when will things get better? They will. They definitely will. I think sometimes you don't even understand how far you have come. So I want you to take a minute and really acknowledge how far you have come, because you really, really have come a long way, and you don't always see the progress that you make, but that's why we have tarot readers to help us remind you. So please really give yourself a pat on the back here. It's really, really well deserved. And talking about a pat on the back, on the Seven of Wands card here, she's sort of getting spanked, and it's sort of like the atonement. So I think you have really, really learned your lessons over here, and I think you're finally very fierce. You're finally learning to stand up for yourself, and it doesn't matter if you're a male or a female or anything in the middle. You're very much in your divine feminine energy. We have the Siren card, and Siren is that sort of alluring feminine archetype that you just cannot resist. It is sort of like the deepest calling of your inner own depths. It is sort of the pull of the subconscious over things. It's sort of like how the moon controls the tides. So you definitely have this very unspoken influence. You have this gravitational pull about you right now because you are getting very, very attractive. I feel a lot of you all are also glowing up, so people are definitely even viewing your glow up over here. And I guess there is some jealousy, but just look at Britney. Britney was hated on by everyone. So I mean, what can you say when someone has a narcissistic father, right? Nothing. So if get your strength from Britney, because you very much have it, and you don't even need it from Britney because you have it within yourself. You just need to tap into your inner siren Britney because it's very much there. And I think it's really important that you truly start seeing yourself like that, because you are a threat. You really, really are a threat over here, pile number one. And like I said, justice is like a big play in this reading. So I feel if you've gone through like a public heartbreak, or if you had if you settled for some really ugly person, and they it was somehow a karmic relationship where you feel you can't even trust anyone now, believe me, the worst is over. You won't be repeating that same cycle. That and needless to say, you shouldn't take that piece of trash back into your life. You let the garbage be in the garbage bin, right? And you know keep healing. I feel a lot of y'all are also healers, and if you are healers, I truly want you to know that you will not be able to heal yourself till you heal other people. So it's very, very important that you understand your role. And I think that itself will help you heal by healing other people. You don't even have to be like a full blown healer, tarot reader. You could very much have a worldly job, it doesn't matter. But what you have is a very positive impact on whoever you cross paths with. And let me tell you, there are no coincidences ever. Life has no coincidences. Things are very much by grand design. And I think the more you start to understand this, the less you'll be even resentful, and the more, it's sort of like the surfer learning to ride the wave. So I think that is truly going to happen over here with you. And you will definitely get out of this heartbreak. And I feel a lot of y'all felt very stuck, a lot of y'all felt very paranoid, a lot of y'all felt you just couldn't move, you just couldn't break free from that. But all these difficult things happened so you can truly understand that you can survive anything. You have the soul of a warrior, you have the soul of a knight. And that coupled with your beautiful siren energy, you are the whole package. And a lot of y'all are glowing up, and let me tell you, you're gonna glow up even more. You're gonna get very physically attractive. And let me say this one thing about physical attraction. People who are ugly on the outside are ugly on the inside, and people who are, most of the time, people who are pretty on the outside, they're also pretty on the inside. So what is within is going to be reflected without. So your inner beauty, I feel a lot of y'all have a lot of rich inner worlds. So your rich inner world is going to finally expand and manifest into the external. Your inner beauty is finally going to reflect into the outer. And I think you may have this toxic tendency of chasing, and I think the biggest lesson for you is to learn that you don't ever have to chase anything or anyone, because you are very much in your feminine energy. You're very much in the siren energy, and a siren never chases. A siren is so alluring that you can't help but go towards her. So please remember this about yourself. I think at times we all forget how truly powerful we are. And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong in using your physical beauty to get, to get ahead in life. If people can do all kinds of nepotism, pretty privilege is nothing compared to the other kind of privileges people really, really use. So even if someone is saying that, oh, this person uses their looks to get ahead, the person probably saying that is really fucking ugly. So don't let these haters of yours have any power. Don't don't give them the time of the day. They're not important. They're the inconsequential street goons that get beaten up by Superman, who barely get 3 seconds of screenplay. And you're the main character energy over here, you know. So, just know that everything that is taken away from you is going to be exchanged for something much, much better. And I think what you need to do is keep manifesting, but don't try to manifest a specific person. Try to just manifest love, because it will come to you, and it will come to you in ways you can't even imagine. We don't know what is the best for us. I mean, sure, compared to everyone else, we sort of know what is the best for us, but even then we don't know what is the best for us. So sometimes you just have to let God and universe do its thing, and it will do its thing. So just enjoy, because you're finally coming into a time of harvest, and people can see this. People can sense your abundance. So be persistent. You're very much almost there. Now is not the time to falter at all. Like this Two of Swords card, she's really balancing on a thin thread between two buildings. So you very much have it within you. You have a lot of magic within you. And you could very much tap into your dark feminine energy, because you have it, and you're supposed to use that in this lifetime to get ahead in whatever way you choose. So just firstly realize how powerful you are, because people can see your power and you can't always see your power. So more self-awareness at your end. It's really beautiful, because I think finally when you see your own beauty, you see how one of a kind person you truly are. You'll truly realize that the sky is the limit for you, and you can get whatever you want, and even more. Because what you're going to do is you're going to create a beautiful ripple that is going to affect a lot of other people in the process. And that is very, very fucking powerful over here. Let me say that. Shuffle some oracle. Any additional messages? Okay, we have Cougar, Heron, and the Raccoon card. The Cougar card reads assertive. In silence, you find power. Claim your leadership role and take action. You know where to go and what to do. You have the courage and the confidence to succeed. So, like I said, be very, very smart about your moves. You don't need to tell everyone everything. People don't always have the best intentions, especially if you're trying to manifest something big for yourself. Learn to keep a little secret. It's going to be very beneficial for you, because I'm seeing that not a lot of people in your environment have the best interest for you, and sometimes you don't even know that someone is truly jealous of you, and they're supposed to apparently love you. So don't give anyone the chance to backstab you. And I'm not saying be paranoid. I think you have enough discernment to know who's truly for you and not for you. But take this as a positive cautionary sign, because you are a natural leader. You have these natural leadership abilities, and a lot of y'all don't want to be leaders, and that is exactly why you are, you have this great potential to be a leader, because we have too many power hungry, money hungry people running amok. There's too much fascism going on across the globe right now. So it's very important to lead with love, because that's what you're going to do. And we have the Heron card, which reads patience. Create a place in nature's stillness and be renewed. Take time alone to find balance and step confidently towards your purpose. Patience will bring you rewards. So delayed gratification, it's going to be a very, very big theme for you to truly get to where you need to be. You're scaling the highest mountain, and you need to pace yourself when you're scaling the highest mountain. You're not just going to run to the top. You're going to probably get tired just in like 30 minutes. So learning to be quiet when necessary, learning that sometimes it's best not to say anything than to say something at all, because in learning to be quiet and learning to be still, sometimes we are stopping ourselves from some really bad pitfalls, you know. Taking a minute to pause is not necessarily a bad thing, because you could save yourself from many difficult pitfalls and detours, you know. So use your intuition, because herons, they're very much in water. One leg of theirs is in the water and the other is sort of in air. So you sort of have this ability to straddle two worlds, the spiritual world and the physical, and truly learning to balance yourself there. So that, patience and being assertive is going to be some really major themes in your life, and some major lessons that are truly going to help you get even further ahead, because like I said, you're already very abundant, and that is manifesting finally. We have raccoon inventor. Decide on what you really want. You have the ingenuity to claim it. Avoid being the trickster and practice integrity. You have many roles and you can juggle them well. So I think you're also being tested to really see how much responsibility can you handle in every sense, not just the worldly sense, but the spiritual sense also. So like I said, even if you have all these haters, people that are trying to pull you down, they're clearly not on your level. You're definitely much higher than them. And people will want you to act out of character. People will want you to say certain things just so they can justify their own bad behavior. But you know redirect your energy towards where it needs to be. You will naturally let go of this heartbreak. You sort of have to deep clean your heart, because that'll further help you, in pioneering things, because that's what you have been put on this earth to do. You're meant to create things that haven't been created yet. And raccoons are very resourceful. you know they sort of have taken the concrete jungle by storm. And you have this great ability to maneuver your way through any shitty situation. Most people, if they had gone through what you went through, they wouldn't be the same. But you still have a loving heart. It's just very repressed. It hasn't turned bitter. And that itself is a superpower. That is something to be grateful for. So don't underestimate anything happening in your life right now. you know you're meant to do great things, and this is the test for that. Any other messages? Yeah, you're transforming, and let me tell you, you're going to transform even further. It's sort of no end to your transformation. You're going to go to level 100, and it's not always what we want, but it is something we need most of the time. You're not going to plateau ever. You're only going to keep ascending. So, you know integrity is going to be very important further along your path, not just for yourself, but even for others. And like I said, natural leadership that you have, you're going to lead by example. You're not going to have to tell someone to listen to you. People will come and listen to you because they know that's the right thing to do. So please give yourself enough credit. Any other messages? Yeah, so that's all I have for pile number. Once again, it's a general reading. Take what resonates, leave the rest. And if you like my style of reading, please like this video, share, subscribe, comment. It means a lot. It helps the channel grow. And if you want to reach out for a private reading, you can definitely do that. My email ID and my Instagram handle are given in the description box below. And you can go to Mystic Rose's channel and check out the collaboration on this reading with her that I did. You can definitely go there and see the extended reading. So please go check out her reading. Thank you. Hello, pile number 2. If you chose the masterpiece card, this is your how are you being viewed right now reading. So we're asking angels, ancestors, spirit guides, ascended masters, star family today. How is my pile number 2 being viewed right now? How is my pile number 2 being viewed right now? We thank you for these clear, concise, accurate messages, angels, ancestors, spirit guides, ascended masters, star family. We thank you for always guiding us, especially when we need it the most. How are my pile twos being viewed right now? Okay, pile number two, we have 10 of wands, 9 of wands, the devil, chariot, 4 of swords, the hermit, page of swords, 5 of cups, 7 of cups. Wow. You've really been going through it. You know, I think it's... Okay, pile number two, we have 10 of wands, 9 of wands, the devil, chariot, 4 of swords, the hermit, page of swords, 5 of cups, and 7 of cups. Pile number two, you've really been going through it, you know, and I think this is very evident, you know, to people around you, you know, to your co-workers, to your family, to your friends, to people you used to hang out with. I'm picking up a lot of people that you used to hang out with, because I'm seeing that you it's been a lifelong struggle for you to learn boundaries. And I feel you've had to learn the importance of boundaries rather the more difficult way. You know, things haven't been easy, and, you know, life lessons have made things even more difficult for you than they are for most people, you know. I definitely see that over here, and that has completely triggered you into not being able to trust anyone. And I think this is very evident to people around you. You know, I think you are very much in your introvert energy right now. You know, you're sort of keeping to yourself most of the time. And it is definitely coming from this space of betrayal and backstabbing. You know, I think people have really, really disappointed you in your past. You know, and I think there is a lot of blaming. I think you blame yourself a lot for not being able to be discerning enough. And I firstly want you to stop blaming yourself. You have no reason to blame yourself. We don't always know who to trust, and that is okay. That is really, really okay. You know, and what I'm getting here is you're very private as a person. I think you're naturally a very private person, but a lot of people have, you know, completely like spun like false narratives about certain things that you went through in your life, certain difficult situations that you've had to face. You know, I'm sensing a lot of prying eyes in your private life, and here we have the masterpiece card, which, you know, is sort of reckoning Britney's Blackout era, and that is like her best album ever. You know, it like to this day when I listen to that album, it's like really fresh. And I think that's what you are. You know, you have this ability of never being bogged down, never turning bitter, you know, still being your wholesome, loving self, you know, which most people can't be, you know, after like one small fucked up thing. And, you know, you've had a series of unfortunate events happen to you. So you need to firstly understand that you can never do anything about the haters. You know, what you can do is truly not give them the importance that they deserve, because I'm seeing there are a lot of prying eyes into your personal life. And I think a lot of y'all have glowed up since your last breakup. You know, since you have walked away from maybe an ex-lover, you know, certain family members or certain friends, certain co-workers. You know, I feel a lot of y'all have also moved cities, countries, whatever, you know, and you're glowing up, you know. And I think people are also very well aware of certain addictions that you have had, you know, to things, people, substances, you know. So like I said, you know, I feel a lot of your dirty laundry has been aired, and, you know, people have completely put their own spin on it, you know. So if, you know, if, let's say for example, if you know, you somehow got caught by the police, you know, for not even something really big, you know, maybe you were like speeding, you know, and I think the kind of lies that are going around is, you know, you were probably really high driving off the cliff or something, you know. So I just want you to know that whatever false narratives people have spun about you, no one even believes them, you know, because you what you have done is over and over again, you know, you have used everything that has happened to you, especially the bad things, and you have, you know, gained control over that, and you have used that to catalyze yourself to further movement. You know, we have the chariot after the devil card. So, you know, you have used you have literally alchemized, you are an alchemist. You have literally alchemized the most horrendous, fucked up shit that has happened to you, and you have been able to create forward momentum for yourself through it. And not just for yourself, but you're also affecting a lot of people in the process. And let me tell you, your haters are in awe of you. They are your biggest fans. This is like Twitter stan behavior. They're obsessed with you, and just really embrace this, because I don't think we would have an album like Blackout if Britney didn't go through the worst possible things. It's a really interesting rhetoric to even ask, would an artist create great art if they didn't suffer as much? I think that is a very interesting point of view over here, and I'm saying that because I'm sensing a lot of y'all are very creative over here, and you have the ability to alchemize the darkest things that happen to you, which most people wouldn't even be able to come out of. And let me tell you, that itself is a superpower. So, despite all the fucked up shit you have gone through, and all your dirty laundry that has been aired, despite it all, you rise. And Blackout was also sort of like a satire as to how everyone was so curious about what was happening in Britney's life. You're as, we'll take that as confirmation, you're as interesting as Britney in the 2000s. You know, I think I don't, and I feel a lot of y'all are glowing up, and I think a lot of y'all, due to your low self esteem, you probably attracted some really ugly people that you were clearly settling for out of love, and I think all that has also stopped. I think finally you're putting value into yourself, the inherent value that you have within yourself, you're bringing that out, and you're not ashamed anymore. And you're you're very instinctual over here. You've become very instinctive in your maneuvers. You know exactly what people want to hear from you, and you sort of do the opposite. So you are very much the ringleader over here. And I just want you to know that yes, please take time off for yourself. I think a lot of y'all need to rest. A lot of y'all need to meditate. I feel a lot of y'all in pile number 2 have the natural aptitude to meditate. And let me say, most people don't know how to meditate, but you do. So please use this to your advantage, because you definitely can. You definitely have it within you to use your meditation and to get certain downloads for yourself and for yourself only. So don't ever feel stuck in your life. Even if you're in debt, don't feel stuck. You have the ability to clear it. So I really want you to be firstly so grateful for all your struggles, because you wouldn't have ever realized how truly strong you are, and people see this about you. How you're being viewed right now, people see the sheer strength you have. You're very, very intimidating to people right now, pile number 2. And I think you haven't even done your best work yet. I think your best work is on the horizon. So all the battles you have fought, you're sort of moving to the ultimate battle. And spoiler alert, you're going to win. You're really going to win over here. The best work that you have created has yet to come. You know, the next your next best album is going to be the best album. So don't feel you need to stop, you need to rest on your laurels, because I'm seeing a lot of y'all don't do that anyway. You probably take on other people's problems, you go out of your way to help people. So I think learning to say no is going to be very, very important for you, pile number 2, progressing further on your path. Because you have to understand that you are the main character in your life. And yes, you can be nice and help other people, but not at the cost of yourself. You're no more going to be playing the best side actress. You're going for the lead, and you're going to win the lead. And you're going to, fucking kill it over here. So, and I see a lot of y'all will be speaking your truth even more. A lot of y'all will be communicating your truth. And I feel a lot of y'all need to communicate your truth, because what you have gone through, you would be surprised how many people can relate to you, even if they have gone through certain similar but different things. So I feel a lot of y'all are meant to have voice here of some kind. I feel a lot of y'all are my tarot readers, my psychics, my yoga teachers, my healers. So please Please use your gifts. You're meant to use your gifts. You're meant to use your creativity in this life. You are a natural born trailblazer. You can turn anything into ash and, create things from ground up. You understand the value of every brick placed in the castle, in the fortress that you have built from ground up. You know the ins and the outs of it. And you have done this before. you know this is, I'm definitely sensing an old soul energy. This is not your first life on earth. But this can very much be your last if you want it to be. You're that powerful. you know so I think the more you keep progressing, you will still have a lot of your past come up to surface. So don't get paranoid, don't feel upset, don't feel you haven't made any progress. You really have. Healing is truly not linear. We have to keep coming back to the same thing that we thought we healed from for the thousandth time. Trust me, even I'm not safe from this. I often find myself coming back to things that I thought I healed from, but I clearly haven't. So please be patient and give yourself that time that you truly need to heal. Because don't try to even bypass any of this, because I feel you have been put through especially difficult things so you can help other people. And that is a very noble job. And that is a lot of fucking responsibility, which not a lot of people can take, but you can, pile number two. Please remember this. Remember who you are. I'm seeing that, right now you may feel you're not meeting anyone, you're not on the same wavelength. You probably don't even resonate with your old friends. You just don't feel the same, you don't even like doing the same things. You don't know exactly what makes you happy anymore. And just accept that. That is okay. Give yourself the space and the time you need to get acquainted with the new version of who you are. Because, that's like your blackout era. Like, need I say more? So it's okay to not know. Give yourself the time to really, really figure out what is it that you want and how you want to go ahead with things. And then stick to it, because you can do it. Not a lot of people can. A lot of people with more privilege cannot do what you can, pile number two. Because you're divinely blessed. And you need to see this about yourself. And when you see this about yourself, you'll finally feel more grateful. You really will, trust me. But your communication is going to improve. So, if you're my tarot readers, if you have any public platform, your oratory skills are going to improve. You're going to be more articulate. You're going to be more eloquent when it comes to speaking and expressing yourself. Your art is going to, get better. Your skills are going to get better. And I think you're just going to get more curious about life. I think, you've been in a space of stagnation and boredom, and just feeling as if things were really not going the way you wanted them to be. But I think you will also understand that why things were not progressing despite you doing your best. Why things were so futile until now. Now is your time, pile number two. And you're just going to shine brighter and brighter and brighter. You really will, especially if y'all are in the public eye. Not everyone, but I know some of y'all are over here. So, just brace yourself. You're going to go viral very, very soon, just out of the blue. That was obviously a very specific message for someone in this file. Shuffle some oracle. Any additional messages for pile number two? Okay, pile number two, we have the horse and we have the coyote. And the horse reads freedom. Your heart is pure and free. A greater purpose calls to you. You have unlimited reserves of stamina and strength. You follow the winds of change and accomplish your dreams. Like I said, you're very, very instinctive. You will know exactly the right thing to do. You will know exactly the right thing to say to the people that need to hear that. Y'all are my channelers. And, horses were used for the longest time to get across nations. The stamina of a horse, you have it. You're not going to go down at all. You have all the greatness within you. It's not going to fall from a meteor in the sky. It's going to come from within. And the more, like I said, the more you learn to pace yourself and understand that you're fighting the long fight, and not get so bothered, and not like get so stressed, not like actually allow yourself to enjoy every single moment of your being, not feeling you have to think about the past or rush into the future. Just you're going to really be able to enjoy your presence for the beauty that it is. And you're going to be doing that with a lot of strength and stamina, because you have this. You were built for this, pile number 2. And we have the coyote, which reads revealer of truth. Don't take things too seriously, make time to play. Great wisdom comes from laughing and at your own folly. Look out for traps and tricks of life and learn from them. So yes, things get very, very grim, and sometimes it's very difficult to find the silver lining. I'm not denying that. But what you can do is still joke about it. Barking in the coyote cart, very, very appropriate, I feel. So it's important for you to have a sense of humor regardless of how grim things are. Because it's only when you're able to laugh about something, it really releases the tension of the trauma, of the stress. It's sort of, you're not holding it as close to your chest anymore. You're not having some very negative narratives about a very traumatic situation. And that's what this coyote card is telling you. Yes, you are alone in the cold desert, metaphorically, but you know the way out. You always do. So just understand who you are. That is half the battle won, pile number 2. Because people can see this, how you're being perceived right now. I think people have misperceived you a lot. People thought you were something, but you have really proven that you're so much greater than other people's projections that they were projecting onto you out of their own limited sense of self. Just because you've had a lot of shallow people around you who have projected their shallowness onto you, somewhere in that you have forgotten who you are. And who you are is you're not like most people. Let's face it. And when you can face it, when you can accept it, and actually see that it is such a fucking advantage to be so special, to not fit in, that is the day you're going to really, really become the most formidable person to exist. Your enemies lost even before they started. Because, you've already done great things, but the greatest things are still on the horizon for you. So keep going. Don't stop right now, pile number 2. This is it for you. This is a very, very important pivotal moment in your life. So, just go for it. Because you have it within you. You're truly destined for great things. And you'll actually be able to achieve it. So really, really embrace yourself for who you are. I think that is really, really going to help you. And I think you have a lot of eyes on you. You don't even realize how many people see you, especially if you're in the public eye. So just know that you have a lot of admirers and suitors who really want to come towards you, but you're just so fucking intimidating to everyone that, people don't even want to try. And I think you have also sort of projected this high boundary, high walls. I think people also understand that you have a difficult past, so they don't really feel like trespassing that. So I think the more you will be able to enjoy life, the more you will be able to find the silly sense of humor in things, even the fucked up dark sense of humor, that will help you get through life. Not just get through life, but really enjoy in the process, and not make it such a tedious, grim, morbid thing. Because it's not. It's really not. Life is truly a blessing. And you're going to see this for yourself. Any other messages? Yeah, so that's all I have for my pile number 2s. Again, it's a general reading. Take what resonates, leave the rest. If you like my style of reading, please like this video, share, subscribe, comment. And please check out the extended reading of this with the collaboration I did with Mystic Rose. please go check out the reading on her channel. And if you want to reach out for a private reading, you can definitely do that. My email ID and my Instagram handle are given in the description box below. And I'll see you guys in your next reading. Thank you. Hello, pile number 3. If you chose the ringleader card, this is your how are you being viewed right now reading. We're asking angels, ancestors, spirit guides, ascended master, star family today. How is my pile number 3 being viewed right now? Angels, ancestors, spirit guides, ascended master, star family. We thank you so much for always guiding us, especially when we need it the most. We thank you for these clear, concise, and accurate messages. How is my pile number 3 being viewed right now? Okay, pile number 3, we have the 6 of Cups, 9 of Cups, 8 of Swords, 4 of Wands, Queen of Wands, 3 of Pentacles, 9 of Pentacles, 2 of Wands, and Queen of Pentacles. So you're showing up here as 2 queens, which is a really big deal. So it doesn't matter if you're a male or a female, anything in the middle. We don't read gender in tarot, we read the energy. And you're showing up here as 2 really, really powerful queens. And first things first, how are you being viewed right now? You're being viewed right now as someone who's really, really fucking hot. You're very, very attractive right now. You're glowing, you're shining, you're radiating, you have a halo around you. You really, really do. And I feel a lot of y'all don't see this about yourself, but this is the truth. And I think you need to start looking at yourself like this. You have to start looking at yourself like this unlimited source of potential and power, because you are. You really, really are. And I'm picking up this is my creatives pile. A lot of y'all could be doing something very, very creative right now. Or, even if you have a very corporate job, corporate mundane job, you have a very creative way of executing and tackling that. And that is your superpower over here. And this is definitely my witchy pile. These are my witchy babes. We healers, we are a little witchy, aren't we? So you could be a healer here of some kind. You could be a tarot reader, astrologer. You could be in the public eye. You could be doing tarot readings. And if you do, please leave your channel in the description box below. I love reading. I love watching tarot as much as I love reading tarot. So you're definitely very witchy. You're definitely very psychic. Queen of Wands, she's the most witchiest of the queens, so to speak. She's very, very fucking psychic. And how people are seeing you right now is people are seeing you as someone that they cannot get one over with. People can't get one over you, basically. You're very, very, nothing misses your gaze. And I feel a lot of y'all have a very intense gaze. You could have really pretty eyes. And I feel a lot of people that when you look at them, they just feel you're looking through them. Especially if you're a tarot reader here of some kind. And I'm picking up, there is a lot of past energy over here. I think there are a lot of people in the past who have underestimated you. There are a lot of people who were projecting their own shallowness onto you. They were projecting their own inability to live their life to the fullest onto you. And I feel I'm definitely picking up a very black sheep of the family energy over here. And I'm seeing that your childhood has also been rather painful. You're definitely not my kind of, you're definitely my kind of people, because you would probably say that your childhood wasn't the best time of your life. I'm seeing you've had a lot of struggles. You were probably bullied a lot. And, I feel all that has just added to who you were meant to be. You haven't had a very straight life. You haven't had a very easy life. Things haven't been very cut and dry for you, and you've sort of had to, pave your own path over here. And how you're being viewed right now is someone who, even if they suffer setbacks, that is just temporary, because you come back stronger than ever. You are really the ringleader over here. And I feel a lot of y'all don't even want that kind of attention or energy. I don't even think a lot of y'all live for that. Not everyone in this pile is a Leo, basically. And by that, what I mean is you could care less for validation externally. You don't really care for external validation, is what I'm seeing over here. But you have to understand that you are God's favorite. You're really God's favorite, especially if you're POC, queer, anything like that. Because God is literally using you as an example. God is holding you up as a mirror to everyone else, who aren't everything that they say they are. So you're basically, I don't even think you're trying to expose people, but I think people are getting exposed just by you being yourself, because you are a powerhouse over here. You're very, I'm picking up a very one-man army kind of energy over here, and I feel a lot of y'all are in the public eye in some way, because it's very evident that you're being blessed right now, and people from your past cannot see this. And I think people in the past really leveraged the fact that you are your biggest enemy, and they did their best to make sure you don't get ahead. But all that has just inspired you to even go further and further on your path. And very, you have easily excelled and exceeded everyone in your past. So even if people were doing better than you, they're not right now. Let me tell you, people are getting the karma who are messing with you. And I'm sensing a lot of insecurity, especially around money over here. And I know a lot of y'all have been working very, very hard, and you have really been persevering to get to where you need to be. And I just really want you to know that you're almost there. You're already showing up here as the Queen of Pentacles and the Nine of Pentacles. Nine of Pentacles is, someone who has enough for themselves and more. Money is not going to be a problem for you, trust me. Even if you feel that right now. You're very, very much close into, it's almost like, it's like those images, right? Where you see people sort of digging underground to find gold, and everyone sort of just gives up when they're almost there. And you're almost there. So please don't give up right now. You're meant to have a very abundant, beautiful life. Especially if you didn't grow up in money, if you didn't grow up with like a silver spoon. I just really, really want you to know that you have a lot of ancestral inheritance coming towards you. And this will be something material. This is Nine of Pentacles and Queen of Pentacles, And the way you're being viewed right now is also, I think, people really see that you're really beautiful to work with, you're amazing to collaborate with, and you always have something to add to the group. So people really see that you're very, very, very individualistic, not in a way that you would step on other people's boundaries, but you're very, very respectful of that. You're also very good at articulating, and you understand how to read the room. So like I said, you're very, very intuitive over here. And even if you aren't like a full-blown witch tarot reader, even if you have a very corporate job, the way you're maneuvering that space, that terrain, is very witchy. It's very psychic based. You're working on your instincts, you're working on your intuitive nudges, and please keep doing that. That will be a very specific message here for someone. And people can definitely see that, you're coming into a place of having a more harmonious home. And you're really building things. I think people are, I think how you're being viewed right now is you're being viewed as a professional, you're being viewed as someone who's at the top of their game. You're really the emperor over here. That's the energy I'm getting. And needless to say, you're very, very powerful manifestors. We have the Nine of Cups and we have the Nine of Pentacles. So I really, really want you to know that even if you want a Bentley, it is very much possible for you to get a Bentley in this lifetime. You just have to truly believe that you're truly deserving of it. It will come to you. You're that fucking powerful, pile number 3. So stop fooling around. Let's not even beat around the bush over here. You are the one with the crack whip in your hand, no one else. You are calling the shots, you're running the game, and you're running it like a Fortune 500 company over here. So people are in awe of you, people are stunned, and people are also really jealous of you, so you may even have a lot of evil eye coming towards you, but I just want you to know that you're really fucking protected, no one can touch you, no one can harm you. The worst is really over. So I am picking up a little gossipy energy over here as well. A lot of people benefited from you being down and out on yourself. And these are the people who would feel better about themselves by bringing you down, just because how miserable and boring their lives are. So even if you're being talked upon and even if you're being hated on, just know that you're the most exciting thing in that person's life. And you will be the most exciting thing in that person's life. And let me say, that's really fucking sad for them, not for you. Because you're moving towards your stability, you're moving towards being more strategic, planning better for your future, and everything that you plan, you will get. The worst is truly, truly over for you. And I think even right now, you have caged yourself in your mind, and I think you have periods of productivity and you have periods of again being prisoned in your own mind. So just knowing that the worst is over will really, really help you get out of this. And I just got like 111 in my mind's eye. You may be seeing a lot of synchronicities, angel numbers, signs, feathers, crows, birds. Take all that as a sign, as your angels are with you at all times. Every second they're with you, even when you're sleeping. And that's not creepy. They're with you at all times, they're protecting you, they're guiding you, your ancestors are with you. You're not alone at all. And I think how you're being viewed right now is people definitely have this understanding, even if they don't say it, that you're the wrong fucking person to mess with. People really shouldn't be messing with you, pile number 3, because people get instant karma by doing you wrong in any way. And just you being you, the very nature that you have, that is going to trigger people. People who don't know who they are, people who are very shallow, people who just want to get through life, people who just want to get through on certain laurels that they gained 20 years ago, or people who want to get by on laurels of their partner. You're none of that. You are a trailblazer. You are someone who is really doing their own thing and looking really fucking good while doing it. So please keep doing what you're doing, because what you're doing is great. You're great alone, you're great in a team. Everyone wants to be around you. You have a very magnetic aura right now. And let me tell you, it's just gonna get more and more magnetic. You're just gonna start glowing more and more up. You are on fire in the best way possible. And I think what you will be offered soon is a rite of passage from all your troubles into a much better timeline. You're going to be in the highest timeline you can possibly have in this lifetime. And let me tell you, that is not easy. What you're doing is not easy. You definitely have my respect and a lot of other people's respect. So please keep doing what you're doing, because you're killing it. You're really, really killing it. And I really see that, you have really earned this place in your life. You have earned your faith. You've really worked very, very hard for everything that you have right now. So even if for a second you get imposter syndrome, please nip it in the bud then and there, because you're very, very deserving. You're really very deserving, pile number 3. And I'm seeing a lot of scepters. There's a scepter with the Queen of Wands and there's a scepter with the Queen of Pentacles. So, you're very fertile, I want to say. You're very fertile in every sense. So, if you're not looking to get pregnant, use protection unless you want that. Or, even if you're not having a baby, if you're a man, whatever ideas you have, whatever you're germinating, whatever is sort of in your metaphorical womb, keep working on it. Let it gestate within you, and it will come out at the right time, because what you will do is you're going to reap the greatest harvest of all time. And this is going to be material harvest, because I'm sensing a lot of insecurity around money, and I'm sensing that it has been a generational ancestral thing over here. So you can't even blame yourself. You can't even blame your ancestors, But you're definitely breaking these patterns. And I think you're not going to be confused anymore. You're going to be very, very direct, and you're not going to be afraid of taking charge against any sort of resistance, because nothing is going to be able to stop you, So really, really just keep killing it, because all your experiences, have, especially the difficult ones, have really made you into this fine cut, beautiful diamond. And diamonds are only created under a lot of pressure. Pearls are only created by irritants, and you've seen it all. You've seen the big, bad, the ugly, the worst. You've seen Shrek and you've seen King Kong. You've seen it all. You've seen the zombies, you have seen the undead. You've gone through every possible difficulty anyone could probably have, and you're still standing, and you're still killing it. You're stronger than an Avenger, pile number 3. You really are. And you need to see yourself like that. Because you are one of a kind superhero. And you don't need an army behind you. You don't need anyone's fucking validation. You're that strong. And most people aren't, let me say that. At least 80% of the people in the world need other people's validation, which is okay, I guess. But not for you, because you're very self-contained, and that is really, really powerful. You know, and I think this fire within you is just going to grow. You're going to get more attractive. You're going to get more magnetic. You know, you're going to you're going to really supersede your own limitations. I think few years when you look back, you're not even going to remember the parameters of your own ego. You're really going to change in the best way possible. And that's not easy, you know. So give yourself the time to even rest when necessary. But don't give up. Please don't give up. You're very, very close to achieving your goal. And it's going to be better than you can have ever imagined. And people can see this, people can see that you have always been such a winner. You were always the cool kid. Even if you were troubled, you were still the coolest. People still wanted to be around you. People feel you always have something important to say. When you speak, people listen. And most people, they go above and beyond to get some attention. And you're not like that. And that is why you have natural leading abilities. You are a natural born leader. So don't try to bypass anything happening to you right now. Every second is important. Try to live it to your fullest. We'll shuffle some oracle. Any additional messages? Wow. Okay, we have the deer, dragon, and the frog. These are really powerful animal totems. The deer reads love. Be gentle with yourself. You heal with the power of love. See the light in all things. Acknowledge your self-worth and grace. Be graceful towards yourself. Give yourself the grace. You have been working really, really hard. You have been really going at it. And I think your core spirit, who you are, is a gentle deer. You're literally Bambi. But you have learned the hard way that it's important to even become a stag when necessary. And what you have is an unmoving spirit. You can't be shaken. And we have this beautiful dichotomy of the deer and the dragon. We have dragon, which reads supernatural. You are the ancient wise sage. You can shapeshift at will. Mastery is your destiny. Rise with dignity. And the way I read dragon in this deck is he's sort of the controller of all the four elements. Just like the magician has complete control over the four elements and ether. And he can exactly create exactly what he needs. So you're getting intuitive nudges at this time. You're getting instinctual nudges. You're being guided to where you need to be, which is, right at the top. So please acknowledge your own majestic self. And that is really going to help you, because people have always seen this about you. And I think you've never understood why people have brought you down. Why have you been the target of such unwarranted hate? It's because you are a fucking star. A star is going to be visible in the night sky, regardless of how dark it gets. It's going to shine even brighter, and that's who you are, pile number 3. That's how you need to see yourself. We let our minds trick us into believing the worst things about ourselves. And I'm sensing a lot of y'all are empaths. So, really use being with a narcissist, take that narcissistic abuse and learn that you can even trick yourself into out-tricking your mind from believing worse things about yourself by actually believing the truth about yourself, which are these good qualities that you've always had. No one has taught you to be a decent person. No one has taught you to be a good person. You just are that. And you're gonna come more into your power. You're gonna step more into your energy and your vigor, and you're just gonna go for it. You're just going to slice and dice through anything in your way. You're going to be unstoppable. And we have the frog card, which reads prosperity, abundance. Exactly what I've been saying. Let go of the past and embrace change. Opportunities are close at hand. Hop into this new day with joy, abundance, and good fortune await you. So the less you resist, the easier it'll be for you to shed skin and become the best version of yourself. And these frogs, they're very pretty, and they're very they're very blue and like purple. So you're getting a lot of these. Your crown chakra is very active right now. You're getting a lot of these divine downloads, and what I get by that is your life is going to start making sense to you all of a sudden out of nowhere. You're going to have a eureka moment. And the beauty about these frog creatures is that, whenever an animal is very, very pretty in the wild, if like for example a frog is purple, blue, red, it means it's all the more poisonous, you know. So looks can be very deceiving. People may see that they can just fuck with you and get away, and they will, they're very much in for a rude awakening, because people who mess with you have instant karma, you know. And you're definitely the poster child here. God is going to forever use you as a mirror, whether you like it or not. So you might as well start enjoying that aspect of yourself. Really, really give yourself the love you truly deserve. To truly be self contained no matter what. Any other messages? Yeah, so that's all I have for my pile number 3s. Again, it's a general reading. Take what resonates, leave the rest. And if you like my style of reading, please like this video, share, subscribe, comment. It means a lot. It helps the channel grow. And please go check out the extended reading on Mystic Rose's channel for this collaboration. I'm so grateful to her for, doing this collaboration with me. Thank you. And if you want to reach out for a private reading, you can definitely do that. My email ID and my Instagram handle are given in the description box below, so you can definitely reach out for a private reading, and I'll see you guys in your next reading. Thank you.